On today's episode, we're going to talk about food and the cultural differences between German food, Peruvian food, and some American food. It's going to be a very loaded episode, so tune in and find out. Hello, Yin Lieblings, I'm Mari, author of The Space Opera, The God Queen, who's been living in southern Germany since 2014. So, one of my street team members, Sunshine, had asked me to talk about food and cultural differences between Germany, American, and Peruvian. It's a very loaded question, and I will see what I can tackle. She did ask me a few questions that I could definitely answer, and so we'll see what we can talk about today. Since food is there's a lot you can talk about with food, and I love food, and I can go on and on and on about it. This will probably be the first of many episodes down the line, so whatever I don't cover today will probably get covered in later episodes. But before we get started, hit that subscribe button and ring that bell. That lets me and YouTube know you like content like this and you want to see more. Here on Adventures of Lamadi, we talk about writing, living abroad, and everything in between. So the first question Sunshine asked is, so Americans are taught as children to eat everything on their plate, and she wanted to know if Germans or Peruvians are the same way as well. So actually, when you think about it, especially where we're from in the Midwest was settled by mostly people from Germany. And yes, Germans are definitely the same way. They're taught as children they have to finish everything on their plate. The food portions, I will admit, are slightly smaller than in the States, so it's a bit easier. But they actually tell children, German children, that if they don't finish their plate, then tomorrow we'll have bad weather. So it's usually to scare children into eating all of their fruits and vegetables. But yeah, that is a very common thing. In Peru, I would say as well. Especially when you're visiting other relatives. I have a very, very, very vivid memory of when I went to Peru with my mom, dad, and my sister back in 99. Yeah. We went and we had lunch at, I think, 4 different houses, and each house did full several course meals. And as soon as you say you don't want something, they ask you don't like it? So yeah, with them, it's not only, you're expected to clean your plate, but you're also not allowed to say no. I do though. I say no because I actually get like really bad pains in my stomach if I overeat, like really, really bad. And so I'd rather not have that than, worry about offending my aunt or whoever. Usually just an aunt because I have so many of them. But yeah, in terms of cleaning your plate, I feel like that is kind of universal. The next question she asks has to do with fad diets. Now, in the US, keto and low carb, especially keto is the one I've seen the most of. That's at least on Facebook. That seems to be the very, popular diets, and she'd asked whether or not Germans get caught up into it, or even Peruvians. So Germans, no, the only diet I have actually seen with Germans, I think keto is starting to come. The gluten-free diet is kind of starting to come, which is kind of weird because Germans have this like borderline unhealthy love affair with bread. So seeing them go gluten-free is kind of weird. But as far as fad diet, well, actually no, what I was saying about the fad diet that I have seen is HCG, which I have actually done. Though the HCG version in Germany is different than in the States. In the States, the HCG requires you to eat no more than about 500 calories a day. And the US version of it has you going for 8 weeks, which is ridiculous in my opinion. Germany, they say no more than 21 days, which is also really hard. Yeah, I did that for my wedding. And it definitely worked, but then the stress of the wedding and dealing with relatives and everything, I gained all that weight back. So it's definitely not a long-term solution. Germans usually they are active. As long as there is sunshine, no matter what the temperature is, you will see them outside going on walks. Even, you see plenty of women with strollers, so they take their children out. They're always going on walks. And they're as far as food wise, they're really obsessed with organic. where, so you actually have, they're like different levels of organic. So you have like, you know, your regular foodstuffs, and then you have, well, and Germany is also obsessed with their carbon footprint. So they are really obsessed with trying to buy at least German-made products. So Germany does have a really good infrastructure in agriculture. And so you can get apples and pears and strawberries. You can get quite a bit of like fruit wise, and then, you know, normal vegetables like peppers and onions and potatoes. You can get those on a regular basis. And so a lot of times, like for example, my husband and I are really big fans of Pink Lady, which you can also get in the States. And Pink Lady technically I think comes from Chile, and there's such good apples. And it kind of pains us because there are plenty of apples grown in Germany, but they don't taste as good as Pink Ladies. But we do try to, you know, buy more German apples here and there. And when we lived in Überlingen, there were, I used to drive by orchards all the time. And so I would go to the farmer themselves and I could buy their apples directly. And as in terms of here, for example, my mother-in-law has her own garden. So we get our potatoes from her, our lettuce, or not lettuce, well, lettuce, yes. And I'm trying to think what other, Feldsalat and romaine lettuce and carrots and onions. Like our basement's kind of full of that right now. And during the summer we get strawberries from her, and yeah, it's pretty awesome. And then like our neighbor, he has his own bees, so we get our honey from him, and we also get eggs from him. So yeah, Germans are really obsessed with trying to, you know, not just because I mean, when you know where the food comes from, like it, you know, even if it's just a mental thing, it tastes better. But also with reducing carbon footprint. So they really don't want, like, avocados are just becoming a thing in Germany, which is, you know, as a Peruvian, especially because I can get Peruvian avocados here in Germany, which is really awesome. But when you think about how much diesel and CO2 has been emitted just to bring that avocado to Germany, it's like, oh man, it really hurts your soul to think about it. But that's what Germans at least try to do in terms of food. So I wouldn't say fad diets are really a thing, but mostly they're just really obsessed with trying to eat healthy. As opposed to Peruvians. Peruvians are, they're definitely into diets. They're very much into diets because with Latin Americans in general, physical appearance is very, very important. So like, you know, like full makeup, you know, wearing like shit clothes, and making sure that you have like this amazing body. And if you can't get it, plastic surgery is an option. That's very common. If you see any telenovelas, you watch any Latin soap operas, 99.9% of the women that you see of them have all had plastic surgery. That's just the reality of it. There is, it's a very, very hot topic. Down in Latin America, there is a very famous book that came out called Cien Tetas No Hay Paraíso. They've done several soap operas based off of it, and it actually touches on the Latin American obsession with plastic surgery, drugs, and child prostitution. The main point here is plastic surgery. So yeah. So I'd say in terms of fad diets, Latins are in general, very much as obsessed as Americans about it. But Germans, no, they just believe like eat healthy and exercise. And yeah, I mean, a lot of my friends are skinnier than I am, and they don't really do anything other than that. So I don't know. And the last thing she asked was about food stereotypes. So she had asked, you know, like German, the stereotypical German food is sauerkraut, sausages, pretzels, and beer. And she wonders if that's overplayed, if there is any truth to it. And of course, you know, like what is Peruvian food? So I came up with a short list of typical Peruvian and German food. And there are even some like similarities here and there, but I mean, not really. So I have a list. And the food, especially with German food, the ones I'm going to talk about are, I actually asked my husband. So I guess from a Hohenloher perspective, so this is specific to our region. So Hohenlohe sits between Franconia and Swabia. So there is a mix of the other bigger regions that influence the food choices here in Hohenlohe. So the first one on my list here, I have Maultaschen. So Maultaschen is like German ravioli. It is usually made with meat and I can't remember what the word is in English, with petersilia. I'll put the translation below. Petersilia. And the history behind Maltasche, so that's supposed to be very Swabian, is because during Lent, on Fridays, Catholics are not allowed to eat meat. So the history behind that is that it's stuffed, for the fact that it's covered, and it's also filled with so many herbs that it actually looks kind of green inside. So all that put together, I think it was monks who had created that invented it. Their logic was, well, God can't see it, so we can eat it on Friday. So it is a very, very traditional meal here in Hohenlohe. It's great as a soup, and also like one of the big companies, Burger, that makes the frozen versions that you can buy at the supermarket. That is actually in Crossheim, where I work. So I've actually gone to their like factory shop and got their stuff at discount. It's so good, love it. So then number 2 is Schnitzel mit Kartoffelsalat. So Schnitzel with potato salad. So yeah, Germans do eat a lot of schnitzel, but they don't just eat, like schnitzel, is stereotyped to be made out of pork, which is, yes, that is true, but we also eat schnitzel out of turkey, which is, if you want to go for a healthier option, it's very delicious. And sometimes like the Schweinschnitzel, so the pig schnitzel is like massive, it's huge, but Pute schnitzel, so a turkey schnitzel, is usually a lot smaller. So if you want to eat like slightly less, as well as eat a little healthier, the turkey schnitzel is the way to go. And then of course potato salad, I mean, that's yeah, even Peruvians have their own potato salad, which I'll get to in my list later. So then we also have, so I want to go for a fish option. We have Rösti mit Lachs. So Rösti there's actually different, in Germany there's so many different words for that. You have Rösti, which I think is more Swiss. Then you have Kartoffelpuffer, Reibedachi, what is it? There's like 50 million different words for this, but it's essentially hash browns. We Americans, we know it as hash browns. And so hash browns we know as breakfast food, but in Germany it's actually more like lunch or dinner, and it's served with different kinds of toppings. There's actually a restaurant when I lived in Überlingen that had, it was so good. They had like just a plate of hash browns, and you can choose whether you want like applesauce on it or if you want some usually more salty things. So my favorite was to get like salmon and pike perch with herb butter. Oh God, I'm starting to get hungry now. So good. But I love Rösti. I love anything with potatoes. Half Peruvian, it's kind of in my blood. But yeah, it's so good, so good. And then I went for a dessert option with this spaghetti ice. That's very, very German. Although my husband claims, the Italians make it for us. Well, yeah, okay, yes. But it's essentially just vanilla ice cream put through a press, so it comes out looking like spaghetti with strawberry syrup and white chocolate flakes. So it looks like, like bolognese sauce with Parmesan, and it's just ice cream. And yeah, they're obsessed with it. They are obsessed with it. In the summer, my husband's always like, I want to get spaghetti ice. I want my spaghetti ice. And last but not least, I went for drinks. So what's popular here in Germany is Spezi. Spezi is a mix of Coke and orange Fanta. And it is actually very good. Sometimes I find it more refreshing than Coke, and I think it's supposed to have less caffeine. I don't know. I have no idea. It is good. It's just another drink option, and Spezi is the most popular one. Yeah, so if you're ever in Germany, I highly recommend ordering Spezi. And I realized I totally forgot to add Spätzle mit Linsen. That's why maybe the camera's a little off. Spätzle mit Linsen is kind of like the holy food here in this area. Like when at work in our cantina, whenever they serve Spätzle mit Linsen, there's usually a line out the door, and that's Spätzle, which is kind of like an egg noodles. Most of the Germans will know it as there's Käsespätzle, which is Spätzle with cheese, kind of like a German mac and cheese, but this one's just with like a gravy and with lentils. I don't know why it's such a big deal, but like the people in this area go nuts for it whenever it's served. I don't get it. I really don't. But I'm also not a fan of lentils. And I also thought I would add, as a number 7, like a weird dish, like something that you don't see often, that's super, super traditional. And I think as an American would be weird. I think that would be the best way to say it, as an American. And in Germany is a Schlachtplatte, which means a slaughter plate. And in my opinion, in my American opinion, it is just as disgusting as it sounds. But some people, they swear by it. They swear by it, and especially with the blood sausage. Ugh. And Peruvians also eat blood sausage. Like, ugh. I've tried blood sausage before. I was not a fan. So with Peruvian food, so I made a mention of potato salad before. So the most famous potato salad is papa la huancaína. It is boiled potatoes with a yellow sauce, and the contents of that yellow sauce vary. There is what you will find in a Peruvian restaurant or what you will find in Peru. It is very different than what my mom makes because, of course, when my mom moved to the States from Peru back in the 80s, you couldn't find most of those ingredients. So she had to adapt and kind of Americanize it. But the end result is amazing. And I'm really glad that I know that recipe. And I also even got my in-laws here in Germany into it. And it's usually very spicy. And I actually used to make like a non-spicy version and then the spicy version that I would eat or my husband would eat. But I have gotten my German in-laws like obsessed with this. So now I only make the spicy version, which blows my mind, especially with my mother-in-law. Like, she's just like, yeah, I don't care if it's spicy, I'm gonna eat it anyway. I'm like, all right, this is cool. But yeah, love papa la huancaína is always like a typical staple. The second one on my list is Lomo Saltado. So Lomo Saltado is the dish that I usually make for people when I am introducing them to Peruvian food. It's beef, tomatoes, onions, or I usually make with peppers instead of tomatoes, over a bed of rice with fried potatoes or french fries if you're feeling lazy. It's a very non-threatening dish in my opinion. Like, Germans don't have a problem with it, Americans have a problem with it, and it is amazing. It is super delicious, but it is Peruvian. It's very, very Peruvian, very traditional. The next one on my list is tallarines verdes. So because they're, as Americans, we all know how, with all the gangster movies there was an influx of Italian immigrants in the early 1900s. Most of them were Southern Italians, ironically. And all the Northern Italians went to South America. My grandfather, in fact, is from Sori. And they brought with it their love of pasta. So tallarines verdes it means green spaghetti, and it's usually also served with a steak on top. And the funny thing is, like, my mom always made it. It's essentially just green pesto. It's homemade green pesto. And until I was in college, I actually didn't know that you could buy pesto. Like, I was so used to my mom making it, and then she also gave me the ingredients, the recipe for it. So I always made it. And so I just assumed, one, that it was just Peruvian, and two, that it couldn't be store-bought. So you can imagine my surprise when one of my best friends was like, hey, we're gonna have pesto tonight, and then gave me the jar, and I was like, oh, what? It was crazy. So it is very different, at least the tallarines verdes that I know. The tallarines verdes that I know is it's not made with, I think it was Parmesan and pine nuts. So the kind I make it is with walnuts and cream cheese, and also with some lime, because it's very Peruvian. We like having lime in there. So it's actually a more refreshing flavor, in my opinion. So going with the fish theme, like I did with German, ceviche. Ceviche is actually the national dish of Peru. And there's ceviche mixto and ceviche con pescado, or ceviche de pescado. And that's just the ceviche de pescado is the traditional with just plain fish. Mixto is also with octopus and other fish stuff. Can't think of the word. I'm thinking of the German word, which is Meeresfrüchte. But yeah, anyway. German. Anyway. So that's usually marinated in lime juice. So it's considered cooked, even though it's technically raw. And when you're done with eating ceviche, you are expected to drink the leche de tigre, which is the kind of the leftover juice that was soaked in the fish. that is very, very traditional. Of course, every country will tell you, you know, every Latin American country has their own version of ceviche, and they'll tell you theirs is better. So of course, the Peruvian one is better. There's also tiradito, which is actually my favorite version of ceviche, which is not just in lime juice, but also in hot sauce. It's so good. I just love everything spicy. I love the taste of burning. So if you're ever in Peru, if you don't like spicy, go for ceviche. If you want to try something different, go for tiradito. You can thank me later. In terms of dessert, the most traditional one you'll find in Peru is alfajores. So alfajores is made with like a pie crust. It's like a pie crust sandwich, and the middle is with a cream that's called majar blanco. Majar blanco is actually boiled So majar blanco is actually boiled condensed milk. So it's caramelized. And then of course it's covered in powdered sugar. Sometimes there's also coconut added to it. And the end result is a semi-sweet dessert. And it's very rich, but it's also not too sweet. Like I love it. It's one of my favorites, but it's also a lot of work to make. Actually, most Peruvian things are a lot of work to make, but that's okay because it's so worth it. And then in terms of drink, we have Inca Kola. Inca Kola is the national drink of Peru. It is so popular. Coca-Cola actually tried to come to Peru. Well, they came to Peru and they tried to beat Inca Kola because Coca-Cola has to be #1 everywhere, and they couldn't do it. They tried everything, you know, but like whatever, you know, like, I don't know, different contests or giveaways. I don't know what was their marketing strategy, but it didn't work. So what did Coca-Cola do? They bought it. So now Inca Kola is owned by Coca-Cola, which is great for like my mother, for example, because you can get Inca Kola in the States, and I can actually order Inca Kola here in Germany because there is a Peruvian shop in Freiburg, which is awesome. And I have been able to order Inca Kola at a ridiculously high rate, but who cares? Because Inca Kola is glorious. So, and last but not least, in terms of odd, like weird, exotic foods that Peruvians do eat, it is cuy. Cuy means guinea pig. And yes, I have tried guinea pig. People have asked me what it tastes like. It honestly tastes like rabbit. And the manner of eating it is like lobster, where you do a lot of work for very little meat. If you want to try something different, it is good. It is different. And yes, it does look like a guinea pig when it's served. But is it the end all be all food? In terms of Peruvian food, no. Honestly, if you really want to try something, I will recommend alfajores or papalo huancaína, of course, or anticuchos, or there are plenty of other things that you can eat that may not be a little too weird for you, and that's fine. Though if you want to try cuy, I do highly recommend at least trying it because it's a really fun experience. So yeah, as I said, this is a very loaded episode. I mean, it's rather scatterbrained, trying to, you know, she asked some very good questions and how to kind of condense it in a manageable episode. But yeah, I feel like this will just be the beginning of a series of talking about food culture in general. Because it's a huge topic and I could easily go on, but I think I'm gonna have to just stop at the moment. So thanks for joining me. If you're new here, please consider subscribing and give this video a thumbs up. It lets me know you like food like I do and you want to know more. The God Queen is available in ebook and paperback. I have the links for everything below. Connect with me on social media, either through Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. Also, check out my newsletter where you will get the most up-to-date information on books, projects, pugs, and giveaways. Just for subscribing, you'll get a free character sheet to use, as well as the first 6 chapters of my debut space opera, The God Queen. And that's it for today. Until next time, adi!